Hello, BookTube. Have more mail for you today. A great big pile of mail, including some big boxes. So let's take a look at what we have. Let's see. Two of them are these vacuum press things to start with. Let's see what we have here. And we're going to have to wing it rough style, probably, because these are from publishers, and publishers are not... publicists are not at their desks. My favorite people in the world, book publicists, are not at their desks. So they're not around to put pub sheets in books. So we're just going to read off the dust jackets. So what do we got here? Oh my. Okay. This is Orwell, A Man of Our Time by Richard Bradford, new from Bloomsbury. Nice cover. Very nice. Nice choice for the back, too. Just that. Just quotes from Orwell on 1984. No falderall. Just very nice. Nice design on this thing. Let's see what we have here. So this is an Orwell biography, the 80 millionth. One of the most enduringly popular and controversial writers of the 20th century. George Orwell's work is not an author. That is a dangler. We're starting with a dangler. Oh my. Is as relevant today as it was in his own lifetime. Possibly in the age of Brexit, Trump, and populism, even more so. Doublethink features in 1984 and is the forerunner to fake news. No, it's the forerunner to alternative facts. If you think there is such a thing as alternative facts, well, let's go on here. He foresaw the creation of the EU, and more significantly, he predicted that post-imperial xenophobia would cause Britain to leave it. His struggle with his own anti-Semitism could serve as a lesson to today's Labour Party, and while the Soviet Union is gone, China has taken its place as a totalitarian superpower. Aside from his importance as a political theorist and novelist, Orwell's life is fascinating in his own right. Caught between uncertainty and his family's upper-middle-class complacency, Orwell grew to despise the class system that spawned him, despite finding himself unable to fully detach himself from it. His life, therefore, mirrored the history of his country. Like many of his background, he devoted himself to socialism as a salve to his conscience. In truth, he reserved as much suspicion and distaste for the proles as he did pity. He died at the point when Britain's status as an imperial and world power had waned, but his work remained both prescient and significant. Okay, so we have what's the matter, baby? You want to say hi to your fans? We haven't seen you in a while. Whoa. Here we go. Who are those people, baby? Huh? Who are they? Oh, how you doing? We had such a good morning, didn't we? We've had such a good day. We have. I'm going to have a great afternoon, too. We're going to go on a huge walk. Huge. Let's see here. Who is the author of this thing? It's a George Orwell biography. These are not uncommon. Richard Bradford is research professor in English at Ulster University and visiting professor at the University of Avignon. He has published over 25 acclaimed books, including a biography of Philip Larkin, which was an independent book of the year. My. He wrote a life of Kingsley Amis and a biography of Kingsley's son Martin. And according to the Sunday Times, his life of Hemingway is, quote, a bombshell biographer. Good Lord. Okay. Well, I'm all for it. I don't belong to the Orwell cult that so many people do. So many people love this author more than I do. I think his fiction is strained and very, very didactic. I like his nonfiction. I made the mistake of mentioning just randomly on one of these videos that Everyman's Library does a wonderful collected volume of his essays, and one of you sent it to me. So I have to watch my mouth now because you're sending me stuff all the time, and you really shouldn't. So anyway, let's do this next one. It also is vacuum pressed, so it is going to be another book from a publisher. Here's hoping, since I get so few books from publishers, here's hoping it's not a second copy of the same book, because that would be a great letdown. But these cardboard things, you have to dismember them because they're sticky on the insides. They'll stick to everything if you don't tear them into confetti. But then I'm going to have to store the confetti somewhere because the recycling bins, we have two recycling trash containers at the back of the house, and somebody decided to fill them on Sunday night. Right to the top, full, right to the top. You open the lid and there is no room at all. You couldn't put a piece of paper in them. and that stuff doesn't get picked up until days from now. So somebody decided, well, here's all my recycling. Probably nobody else does, but these recycling containers are mine this week. They're all mine this week. So I just have to pile up my recycling until next week. Anyway, what is this next one? Okay. Wow. All right. This is interesting too, and I didn't have any no forewarning of this. Okay, this is by Andrew Lycett, and this is Conan Doyle's Wide World, Sherlock Holmes and Beyond. Doesn't that look great? Is this Bloomsbury? No, this is Tourist Park. Are they a subsidiary of Bloomsbury? Yes, they are. Okay, they're in Great Britain. So, but this is, I guess, going to come out in America looking like this. Doesn't that look good though? That is a very nice looking hardcover. All right, and this has UK blurbs, so I'm assuming this was already out in the UK. Arthur Conan Doyle was not only the creator of Sherlock Holmes, he was also an intrepid traveler who left fascinating accounts of his journeys across the world. Sharing the same relentless nature as his famous detective, Conan Doyle thrived on mystery and adventure as he explored the farthest corners of the globe. The personality of Britain's best-known crime writer bursts to life in his descriptions of the places he visits, from the icy waters of the Arctic to the steamy swamps of southern Africa, skiing in the Alps, sailing down the Nile, exploring the Rockies, and much more besides. Conan Doyle's travel writing is humorous and insightful in equal measure and illuminates how he was able to bring such a unique sense of place to his fiction, most notably the jungles of South America, the backdrop of his novel The Lost World. And the author is a celebrated biographer of Conan Doyle, and he gathers these accounts from the first time in a gripping collection of the master's best travel writing and places them in context. Okay, so is that what this is going to be? Is this an anthology of travel writing? There's our author on board a ship. Is that what this is? Is this an anthology of travel writing, or is this a story of... let's take a look and see. So we have a brief introduction. And then, okay, the first section is the Arctic. What do we have here? We have our author telling us about the Arctic. Oh, and then we move on to Great Britain and Ireland. Okay. All right, so this is not an anthology, despite what that dust jacket might have implied, this is not an anthology of Doyle's travel writing. This is a book about his travel writing that quotes it extensively. So here the author is going to follow Doyle around the world and tell us about his experiences, interweaving lots and lots of quotes from his travel writing about that part of the world. I think there's a part of me that might like that better as an approach than an anthology of the travel writing itself, which will have longueurs, right? It will, of course, travel writing will, of course, not, of course, all perfect. Not everybody can be Red O'Hanlon. So, well, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. I wonder when I read this, and I'll have to check the release dates for both of these, because I don't have, that's the one thing I don't have is pub sheets. But I wonder when I'm reading it, will it make me want to find some of it? I don't have any Arthur Conan Doyle travel writing here at Hyde Cottage. Will this make me want to find it and read it? Will the excerpts make me want to do that? I wonder. All right, well, we'll see. What have we got? Yeah, okay, those are just invoices. All right, let's move on. I've got this next package and then 3 boxes, and one of them says Book Depository right on it. So that's going to be something that I ordered in the mail, and that's fine, because the more of those I get, the better. What is this? Okay. 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 This is a gift from one of you. This pattern is continuing. I'm not going to lose my temper. I'm not going to lose my temper. Ordinarily I would, because I should be sending books to you, not you sending books to me. You have a wife. You have a mistress. You have kids in many different cities. You have a job. You have also a mortgage, car payments, insurance payments. You shouldn't be sending books to me. I should be sending books to you. I have made a provision to lift that dictum during quarantine. Just don't get used to it, because as soon as our life goes back to some semblance of normal, I'm no longer going to take this with quite my usual equanimity. I'm referring here, of course, to the fact that recently I made a mention that I love Everyman Library hardcover editions of classics, that I love them. and you started sending me them. And ordinarily I would object. My number one rule to people is don't send me a book. Don't do it. Don't send me a book. It's either going to be something I already have, or it's going to be something I don't want. One way or another, you're just making trouble for yourself and trouble for me. Don't do it. But one of you did. Many of you have been sending me Everyman library editions, and here is the latest one. This is the Histories of Herodotus. And this is the version that was done specifically to echo the version in the movie version of The English Patient. And this is the Rawlinson translation, which I love, absolutely love, and do not have in such a pretty edition. I have a battered old trade paperback. I've often thought of getting this volume because I love that translation more than any other in English. And I thought, why every time I go to Herodotus, I either go to the Aubrey de Selincourt translation for Penguin, or I go to the Rawlinson. And when I go to the Rawlinson, I pull down that battered old trade paperback. And every time I do, and it's not infrequent that it does, I go back to this author quite a bit. He's an old friend. Every time I do, I think, Everyman Library made an edition, a really pretty edition of the Rawlinson Herodotus. You should just get it. And now I have it because one of you bought it online. Well, okay. All right. I'm going to be nice and gentle about this. Thank you very much. Very, very much. You know who you are, and I cannot thank you all enough for this. This has happened half a dozen times now. It's not just that you're picking an imprint and a publisher and a line that I really like. It's that you're also managing to pick the right books. And that, I guess it's not that hard because I only had a couple of these editions when I said I loved them so much. But even so, I guess I've made no secret of how much I love Herodotus on this channel, so that this might make sense. But it's going right in this room. That's the weird thing about getting these Everyman editions, is that they're going right in this room. There'll be no falderall with finding room for them and maybe bringing them back here and in here eventually. No, these are just going to be fitted in here because they're keepers. All of them are. All right, so let's do the book depository box. I hope that none of you spent extra money on book depository on me. Let's see what this is. Oh, the baby is right here. She wants to destroy it. You want to destroy this? Is that what you want to destroy? Huh? Do you want to destroy this? Maybe the cardboard? Do you want the cardboard? There we go. Oh, can you see that? She's attacking the cardboard. Oh, God. What have we got here? Oh, my. Oh, my. Oh. Okay. Wonderful. This is from Book Depository. I ordered this because I got a copy of this and I mentioned that I really liked it, and one of you said, would you mind sending it to me? And I did. It was one of the last things I sent out before everybody went into quarantine. And I sent it out with a little bit of pang, and then I thought, but I thought, no, you read it and you annotated it and you really liked it, but you don't need to keep it. This person doesn't have access to it, and the person that asked for it didn't have any money, and it's fairly pricey. So I thought, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and send it. It's better that they have it than that you have it. Give. In all circumstances when you can, give. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you'll see it someday, even though I knew I wouldn't. Or that maybe if you really wanted to keep thinking about it, you can just order it. And after a while, I was still thinking about it, so I just ordered it. And it's this. It's The New Testament in Its World by N.T. Wright. A big book about the origins of Christianity that is beautifully illustrated, wonderfully written. It's an extensive work of apologetics, in part. It assumes that the Christian scriptures are divinely inspired. It assumes that they are a coherent unit. It assumes that they are not an ordinary Middle Eastern text from 3,000 years ago. It assumes that. That is just the starting point of the book, but it's still wonderful. It's a book to have. It's just wonderful. And this is perfect. Well, this is not from eBay. This is just perfect. So you've got the dust jacket that has the window in it, so it comes off like that, and you've got the illustrated spot illustrations all throughout. I loved it. I loved it when I first read it. I have a bit of a penchant for the writing of this particular author, but even so, I'm great. That's fantastic. So that came and it's in perfect condition, and I will get it. I will treat myself to a reread. It's a monster of a book. How big is this thing? It's co-written with Michael Bird. It's a monster of a thing. It's well over 1,000 pages. No, it's around 1,000 pages, but it's not a coherent narrative from start to finish like that. It has all sorts of insets and timelines and graphs and charts and whatnot. So it's straddles the line between a work of narrative history and a textbook. But I'm happy to go through it again. Happy to. Then we have a box, and it's big, but it's not the biggest one. The biggest one has eBay stickers all over it, so I think I know what that is. But then there's this one in the middle here. This could be from a publisher. Now, baby, you can't want this too. Good Lord, baby bean, how much of this stuff do you want? Oh goodness, she's right at hand here. But this has these plastic air bubbles, and I don't want to give her those. I don't want to give her plastic. So we'll pop these and get them out of the way, and then you can have the box. But I think if these things, this is probably going to be from a publisher, right? Ordinarily. Oh my. Here, baby, take this instead. All right? Pick up something your own size. Oh my. Okay, we're gonna open this. We're gonna. Do I have something to open this with? Every time I take scissors and I want to open something, I'm always tempted. In case Sue Morrow is watching, I'm always tempted to go, ooh. She's the type. If you've been a receiving manager with box cutters all around and lots of clueless college students, you get to be the type that worries whenever anyone is opening something with a pointed object. I always like to joke about that, but I don't want to torment her because she's. But I have to show you this thing, and I have to show you the inside as well because this is unbelievable. This is from Yale University Press, and this is El Greco, and that is gold leaf there. The El Greco, ambition and defiance, and that is also gold. And so is the no, don't do the plastic. Leave the plastic alone. So are the pages are gilded like that. Oh my, an oversized El Greco art book. Oh my, and it's just going to take you through his work. Oh my. Oh my, this is going to be so much fun to read. I wonder when this is due. What the pub date is on this. And it's got these big, generous reproductions. Oh my, very nice. It's a naked hardcover. That's a little bit of a concern because this is going to start to wear if I put it in a bookcase cheek by jowl with lots of other books. And this will have, almost certainly this book will have my favorite El Greco and one of my favorite paintings in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts will be, yeah. How lovely. There have been many a time when I have gone to the MFA just to look at that picture and have it restore me. But this is everybody else as well. This is the whole thing and tons of text. Oh man, very nice. Okay. All right, and then we have the last thing here for this mail, and that is this eBay box. And it's big, so I think I know what it is. And I think it's something that I ordered instead of something that you ordered, which is very nice. I went through one of the reactions that I have had to this whole quarantine business has been an increased hunger for science fiction. For some reason, murder mysteries just haven't been doing it for me. It's been science fiction that has done it. And not just science fiction, but science fiction short stories. I tried a couple of the novels, and aside from the novels of Barsoom, I just haven't been... The sweet tooth that has been itching me has been science fiction short stories. And once I realized that, I realized how few of them I had here at Hyde Cottage. Because we all got caught in musical chairs, right? The music was playing, and then when the music stopped, you're just frozen in place. You're frozen where you are. So, under normal circumstances, if I'd gotten to early spring, even though it's bitterly cold and dark as twilight here, if I'd gotten to early spring and suddenly had an enormous sweet tooth for science fiction anthologies of short stories, Well, I could have filled that sweet tooth easily. I could have gone to the Brattle Bookshop. At any given visit to the Brattle Bookshop's outdoor sale carts, there would be probably 20 science fiction anthologies of one kind or another. Some that I might want more than others, but I could have hoovered them up for $10. And inside there would be more. And there would always be a few anthologies at the new bookstore, the Barnes & Noble. But musical chairs, the music stopped, so we're all frozen. And so I looked around and could count on the fingers of one hand the number of science fiction anthologies that I had at present. And at the same time, I was watching Sean D. Standfast's channel, and he was telling horror stories about eBay, some of his horrible experiences on eBay. He just did a video today with a positive experience, so I'm starting to think that it's just the luck of the draw with whether or not you're getting an honest person. So I went on eBay and I started looking for science fiction anthologies, and we've seen a few of them on this channel. I've unwrapped a few of them for you, and this is the last. This is the last blast of them. There are no others. This is going to suit me until quarantine lifts. And this is a whole box of science fiction anthologies. Most of them, I think, are by Gardner Dozois, the late great editor Gardner Dozois, Massachusetts native, I might point out. Much as he and I locked horns and disagreed many, many times over the 35 years that he was doing his anthologies are still tremendously revisitable. And this is the 8th annual collection with perhaps the most famous cover that any of these anthologies ever had. And I remember there are quite a few things in the 8th that I really liked. One thing in particular, let's see if I'm remembering that correctly. There's one thing in particular. What have we got here? Mr. Boy, The Shobi Story, The Caress, The Braver Thing, We See Things Differently by Bruce Sterling, The Angels Sing by Kate Wilhelm, a fantastic story. Past Magic, Bears Discover Fire by Terry Bisson, his much reprinted story, Bears Discover Fire. Past Magic, there we go, The All-Consuming. The All-Consuming by Lucius Shepard and Robert Fraser. What a story, what a creepy story. Oh my, what a creepy story. But there were a few other things in here that I really liked, and big names too, writers that I really like. Robert Silverberg is in here, Ian McDonald, Connie Willis is in here, Nancy Kress is in here, Joe Haldeman, The Hemingway Hoax. So there we go. And I didn't have this, and I could kick myself, because for the last 10 years that Dozois was doing these things, I was getting them from the publisher. And I still didn't keep them. Insane. So what is this next one that we have here? Okay, this is the 9th annual collection. Also Gardner Dozois. This is a hardcover. These two are in perfect condition. These are not perfect. I mean, you've got that on the top of the spine. So a collector wouldn't call it perfect, but for me, they're in better condition than a lot of the books that I have. I'm hard on my books. Let's see what this next one is. Okay. Then we have the 16th collection. Gardner Dozois. So basically, I'm getting just a whole shelf of Gardner Dozois here. Let's see here. What is this next one? Oh my. This is okay. This is in a little rougher shape, but I'll take it. Sean D. Standfast and Jason Harrigan and Mark at Richardson Reads and Todd's Bursting Bookcase. Well, they're all going to perk up their ears. This is Isaac Asimov's Science Fiction Treasury, 2 volumes. Wow. Okay, so this is going to have just an epic lineup. Brian Aldiss, Who Can Replace a Man? Wow. Who's There by Arthur C. Clarke. Can You Feel Anything When I Do This by Robert Sheckley, a third-rate writer, but some of his short stories are really good. Why by Robert Silverberg, not one of his better short stories, but I haven't reread it in a long time, so I'll be happy to. What Becomes of Screw Loose by Ron Goulart. Ron Goulart wrote Shaggy Planet. And then, like a lot of third-rate science fiction hack authors, he was sort of scrounging around for stuff to do, anything that would pay the bills, and got a golden opportunity to co-write with William Shatner. So there, you're guaranteed money at the front and at the back end, and he did that for a long time. The James Tiptree story. I say the James Tiptree story because James Tiptree is great for short stories. And every science fiction editor who has ever been worth his salt has known that. So one of her stories is in every one of this kind of anthology. And so you just have to decide whether or not you're getting a really good James Tiptree story or not. And the one here is Houston, Houston, Do You Read, which is classic. Where Have You Been, Billy Boy by Kate Wilhelm. Wow. Will You Wait by Alfred Bester. Oh, that is such a clever story. I don't know that it's good, but it's clever. Oh my. Who Goes There by John Campbell is in here, and the old-time science fiction fans out there are nodding because Who Goes There is familiar to you. John Carpenter adapted it for his movie The Thing, and it was adapted before that in the James Arness version of The Thing, and it was adapted after that in another movie of The Thing. That Who Goes There is it's the grist for all of those mills, and I'm sure that in our lifetime we'll see The Thing adapted again. Let's see here. Fred Pohl is in here. William Tenn is in here. James Blish is in here. Isaac Asimov, of course, includes himself. C.M. Kornbluth. Wow. Ray Russell. William Stambrot. Good Lord. Judith Merrill, Sharon Webb, Frederick Brown, Jack Lewis. Computers Don't Argue by Gordon Dixon. The Trap by Howard Fast, the author of Spartacus. Flowers for Algernon in its entirety is in here. The Second Kind of Loneliness is the George R.R. Martin story. I say the George R.R. Martin story because before he was known as the epic bloated fantasy writer, he was a really good science fiction writer. He's well known in circles for that. Barry Malzberg is in here. Wow. H. Beam Piper. Murray Leinster is in here. The Power. Okay, all right, a classic anthology. Boy, I have now well and truly scratched an itch. I won't need any other anthologies of science fiction. We've got a couple more to go here. This is the 14th Gardner Dozois in a hardcover again, and these are just in fine condition. There's nothing wrong with these things at all. So I don't. What have we got here? Oh, lots of stuff. Fantastic. What have we got here? So this was from 1996. We have Greg Benford, Michael Swanwick. We have The Flowers of Owlet Prison by Nancy Kress. We have Robert Silverberg is Death Do Us Part. Maureen McHugh is in here. She's really good. Bruce Sterling is in here. Bicycle Repairman. It's difficult to know. When you get all the way to 1996, it's difficult to know which of these things will be in the 2096. You know what I mean? It's difficult to know which of these will make it to their version of the Isaac Asimov Science Fiction Hall of Fame or something like that. You have to wonder which of these will. There's a Robert Reed story in here. Counting Cats in Zanzibar is the Gene Wolfe story. Jonathan Latham is in here. Walter John Williams is in here. Foreign Devils, great, fantastic. I don't know. That's great. And then the last one. The last one in this pile. What have we got here? Oh, wow. I don't remember this being in the description. Now, see, this is another example where I wish that I could just snap my fingers and be in Sean Stanfast's little room there so I could ask him a question. Do you ever, if somebody's doing a lot sale on eBay, where you're just getting a pile of things, do people sometimes just throw in an extra book? Do they just include one that isn't in the inventory that you signed up for? Because I don't remember this one being at all, unless the seller did that. This is the Hugo Winners, Volume 5, 1990 to 1982. Edited by Isaac Asimov. So what do we have here? Some of these things will be known, I'm sure. Sand Kings by George R.R. Martin. A fantastic long short story. Fantastic. Oh, and this also has The Way of Cross and Dragon by George R.R. Martin. Great. Okay, fantastic. This has Lost Orsai by Gordon Dixon. Great. And The Cloak and the Staff by Gordon Dixon. Kind of a wistful reminder that once upon a time he was a serious science fiction writer, and if he hadn't got bogged down in the Childe Harold series, he would have stayed that way if he just started writing new standalone books instead of just getting lost in his own epistemology. That's a terrible fate for an author. Unicorn Variations by Roger Zelazny. The Pusher by John Varley, the aforementioned late lamented John Varley, who is not known now. He's not remembered now. Wow, so 2 George R.R. Martins and 2 Gordon Dixons in this volume. That's worth the price alone. Although, as far as I know, I didn't pay anything for it. That was not part of the inventory that this seller used. That's very interesting. All right, so my adventures with eBay continue. But that is it for today. That is it for today. So I don't think I have any more eBay stuff coming. I did for a while, and then I took a step back and realized, ooh, this could get habit forming. So I didn't do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. But I now have, thanks to the last 5 days of deliveries, I now have all the science fiction anthologies that I need to get through. Absolutely. Between these and the gigantic shoulder-high stack of old analogs and Asimovs that I have, I will be fine. So I don't think I can do a Steve pile of all these books. I think it's beyond even me. So we'll do a Steve pile of the eBay books with the Hugo winners, 1980 to 1982. We have the year's best science fiction. This is number 14, but we also have number 16 and number 9 and number 8, all by Gardner Dozois. So that's science fiction anthologies. And then Isaac Asimov's Science Fiction Treasury, Volume 1 and Volume 2 in one hardcover omnibus. So that is our eBay adventures. Just a ton of short science fiction. That plus the 8 volumes that I already got is fine. It's a whole shelf of a bookcase. It will do me just fine. Then this gorgeous El Greco edition. Look at that. That is just fantastic. Can't wait. I'll look and see what its release date is. I will dive into it right away. The New Testament in Its World by Tom Wright. Great big introduction to the standard story of the composition and the provenance of the New Testament and the study of it, and a really insightful writing about it. Just a book that I gave it away because one of you wanted it, but I really wanted it for myself, and now I do. Now I have a copy. A gift from one of you, the Rawlinson Herodotus, in one of these gorgeous Everyman library editions that will go straight on a shelf in here. I'll have to make room for them. And then 2 more books from publishers. Conan Doyle's Wide World, a study of the travel writing of Arthur Conan Doyle. Not an anthology of that travel writing, but a study of it. And Orwell, A Man of Our Time by Richard Bradford. Fairly slim George Orwell biography. So two new books plus the El Greco book. And the New Testament in Its World is also new. I am, among many other things, the editor of an online literary journal, and if I got a review for this thing, I'd run it. It's not that old. So there you go. So it's quite a bit. I am now done. My eBay orders, I believe, are now all done, except for one thing, which is not a book, and which should have arrived already, and has not arrived. It is late, so I may never see it. If I do, I'll make a separate video about it so that you can skip it. but in the meantime, my eBay stuff is now done. So now I am just going to make a great big pile of all of these science fiction anthologies that I've got, and clean them all up, go through them all, and then give them a home so that I can just go through them. I'll start reading them now. So there you go. That was the mail for Tuesday. A pile of stuff, and I've got a pile of boxes and garbage here that I can't do anything about, because someone has decided that the recycling was all theirs this time around, not anybody else's, just theirs. And I think you get fined if you put recycling stuff in the normal garbage. Is that right? I'm tempted to do that, but I'll just sit on all of this stuff until I have a chance to recycle it. Anyway, that's a rant for another time. So, wow. Okay, Steve is pleased. I will wrap this up for now. I'm going to take the bean on a bit of a ramble. An ill-advisedly long ramble. She is very vulnerable to the heat. It's not particularly warm outside. We'll have to hope that she doesn't overheat. It's not medically advisable for me either, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to ramble all over hill and dale and see what kind of fun we can get into. But I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.